How about like that? Back of the room? Yeah? All right. Because every once in a while when I'm telling a story, I get a little excited, so I'll start to amp it up a little bit. I want to make sure I'm not yelling back into the mic. But anyways, this is the start of things. Let's get this party started. So have you ever considered riding through a Rocky Mountain blizzard in Canada just to get down and meet a man who makes French pastries in the mountains? Or have you ever wondered which back roads are the best to explore to find a plate of smoked sea lion ribs in the volcanic mountains of Canada? We have volcanoes here. I didn't know it until I crossed the country.
I'm considering going to Newfoundland to get one of those stickers.
It's on here. Or have you ever wondered the best route that goes through the muskegs of the Canadian Shield to explore what cuisines and cultures they have up there? Or maybe track down a bit of muskrat cooked over an open fire inside of a teepee outside of Yellowknife? Well, after traveling the world in search of some of the best cultures and cuisines I could find, a lot of people would ask me along the way, what's so great about Canada? Where should we go and what should we see? And honestly, I didn't know what to tell them. I traveled quite a bit of the world. I'd seen lots of places through Asia and Australia and Africa, and I honestly had not seen much of Canada at all. So I decided to set across the country, travel coast to coast, try to get to know the cultures, the cuisines, and some of the back roads that make up Canada, and do a little discovery about it. And what I found was actually pretty amazing. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kix Marshall. I'm sure you bought a ticket for this event and you're like, wow, I can't wait to meet that guy. I've heard all about him. I'm so excited. But for those of you who haven't, my name is Kix. I wrote this book. It's titled Claire. It's about a trip to South America. It got released as an Amazon bestseller within the first week of sales, so it did pretty good. I'm talking about that speech later this week, tomorrow. I also have this really great website here. I think there's actually a little pointer on this. There we go. So that's my YouTube channel. If you like YouTube videos and little interesting things, I just started doing that. I wrote lots of stories, but I hadn't done much in the way of videos. And so I started doing YouTube channel recently, and it's gone pretty well. So there's lots of interesting things there on that one. And then for anyone who's into motorcycle magazines, this is this summer edition of ATV Motorcycle Magazine. And if you flip to page 36 in here, you'll see a 4-page article with my face in it. It's all about this talk we're giving today. So you pick one of these up, here it is. It's a little, I actually haven't read this yet, I just got this yesterday. I found it on the way here, we went and got groceries last night, I'm like, oh my God, the magazine's out. So anyway, here it is, that's me. And up here in the top corner, that's a picture in Chile, and that is my wife, Angie, in the back corner over there. She's been part of many of these adventures, and she doesn't love to talk as much as I do, but I found giving these speeches that lots of people are interested in her side of the coin and what her opinion is, and even the female perspective. And usually we have two different sides of the same story, oddly enough. We were in the same place at the same time, and I have my experience and she has hers. So when I'm done, we'll have about 10 minutes for questions. I'll invite her back up here. And then if you want to ask her some questions, you can. And if you want to ask me some questions, you can too. But usually her opinion is slightly different than mine. So like I was saying, for anyone who doesn't want to go anywhere, there's this great option, virtual reality. You can sit in the comfort of your living room at your house, put on a headset, put them over your eyes like this, download where you want to go in the world, whether it's South America or Africa, kick back, relax, enjoy the ride. And for $29.95, we're selling that this weekend. Just joking. This is a real presentation about actual things that happen, leaving your house and getting to explore the world. So has anyone in this room ridden around the world before? Has anyone ridden the TET before? Anybody? Anybody ridden the Pan Am before? Here in Argentina? Oh, a couple hands. Okay, great, perfect. Anybody ridden the tuk-tuk? Tuk-tuk, cool. Nearly? Oh, wow. Yeah. That should be the presentation. Hopefully you're talking about that. So I haven't been to all these places, but I'd like to go. So if anyone's interested in those things too, it's a great place to learn. So if you saw someone's hand up here and you want to know about around the world or tuk-tuk or Pan Am or those kind of things, there's everyone here who can ask questions of as well, not just me. So it's a little great room afterwards to get to know each other a little bit and see what there is to know. So this is a route to Argentina. We're left from Canada. If you drive in a straight line, it's about 30,000 K all the way there. It took me 60,000 K because I got lost quite a bit on that trip. But it was amazing. The whole trip changed my life. It was a great adventure. I learned lots of things. Met a lot of amazing people. It was super cool. I loved that trip. And so Saturday night at 6:30 in a different room here, sorry. I'll be talking about that if anyone's interested in the Pan Am side of things or wants to know more. It's not so much about the road itself, but all the things that you kind of don't expect to happen. So maybe that's, the one for me, the biggest one was dealing with all the time by yourself, which was a huge challenge, but it was probably one of the best things I ever did. If you ever have the opportunity to spend a year or two alone inside your helmet, you will discover so many things about yourself that maybe you weren't willing to look at earlier. So that'll be tomorrow. Yeah, it was a little scary at times. So this trip's across Canada. So we're gonna start, I'll tell you a few of the people I met, some interesting people along the way. I went to discover the food mostly is why I went across the country. The plan was to write a cookbook about it, and I wanted to meet some really interesting cultures in different parts of the country, and I had no idea that the country was so diversified. I grew up in Alberta. We're very farm-oriented, lots of meat and grain products, that kind of thing, but the country has so many different interesting places to go. This is actually really close. So this is just up the road in Ferguson, BC. Back that way, 20 minutes or so. And I heard about this guy, his name's Pascal, this guy up here. He's actually from France. He'd moved here. He wanted to live off the grid a bit, and he found a spot off the grid. So he moved to Ferguson, BC, and at the time it had a population of 1. He referred to himself as the mayor. He was the only guy living there. Now I think there's about 4 people who live there year round. He hand-built this cabin by himself in the woods, set up shop there. And I had to be there before April to meet him. So I set off from my house in March, rode through the Rocky Mountains. I had 3 blizzards on the way. I don't recommend it. One of my heated grips broke down just before I got to Lake Louise. That was the first time in my life I thought I was gonna puke. I was so cold. It was not great. But once I got there, it was well worth the adventure. So this guy makes French pastries up in his little cabin in the woods. He's a bit of a recluse and doesn't love people coming there unannounced, but on Sundays in the summer, you can actually ride to his place in Ferguson. He has an open door, he serves tea, he makes pastries. It's super cool. And then if you go to Trout Lake, just up the road as well, during the week, he sells ice cream in this little shop at the bottom. If you show up with fish guts, he'll trade you for ice cream because he feeds his chickens with them. Just a little FYI if you have any extra fish guts with you. Really cool guy. From there, I traveled up into the Nass Valley. Has anyone been through the Nass Valley before? Yeah, and how was it? Amazing. Yeah, it's such a great part of the planet. So I wasn't aware before that Canada had volcanoes. I had no idea. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know we had that kind of stuff. Went through there. You can see where the last volcano exploded. I forget when it was, late 1700s or something. And the whole valley is just a wash of volcanic rock that's all through there. So I'll just flip to this really quick. But if you don't know where it is, so if you go up here through up by Terrace in northern BC, and then this is sort of the Nass Valley in here, and this little place called 𝗔𝗯ance in the middle here where I met this guy Lonnie. There's a road that goes out here to a place called King Coleth. There was no road there until 2014. It is a beautiful ride, and there's almost nobody out there. You can ride out to the end, fresh crab from the ocean. There's 2 places in town to buy seafood from. It's beautiful. So what I went for was to meet this guy, Lonnie. Lonnie belongs to a group of the Nisga'a people, the First Nations group that live up there. Behind him right here in the house is, this is a smoking, it's a smokehouse, sorry. So what they do is they go out, they catch sea lion, which is this item right here, go to the ocean to catch sea lion and bring it back, and there's 4 smokehouses in the town. They bring the meat back to. They'll smoke it in there with alder wood, which is this right here, for about 4 days, and then they have a little sort of butcher shop sort of set up in the town too. They'll pickle the flipper, they'll smoke the sea lion, they'll smoke the sea lion ribs, and then distribute the meat amongst the community to the different elders and stuff like that in there. So I met Lonnie, and Lonnie said, you want to learn about indigenous foods? Come to my house tomorrow afternoon for dinner, we're having smoked sea lion ribs. And I was like, what are we having, Lonnie, sorry? He's like, you've ever had smoked sea lion? I'm like, Lonnie, I've never heard of eating sea lion. I didn't know it was, he's like, yeah, we eat it like probably once a week here. I'm like, we don't eat it once a week anywhere. So I went to his house. It was amazing. It was such a great experience. You can't buy sea lion. You can't sell it legally. So the only way you're gonna get a meal is if you meet someone who belongs to an indigenous group in this area and they invite you over to their place for dinner. And this guy did. It was basically a fluke that I ended up at his house. We're sitting having dinner, and I couldn't pinpoint what. For those of you who haven't had sea lion, has anyone had sea lion? Yeah, I didn't think so. I couldn't pinpoint what the flavor was. So I got my teeth sunk into these ribs in his kitchen, and I was like, what is the flavor? And so Lonnie was telling me that someone from their community had been in Alberta the year before, and they were having dinner, and for them it was kind of unusual. And the lady was sitting down, and she's like, this tastes a lot like sea lion. What are we eating for dinner? And the guy's like, oh, this is bison. And I'm like, that's what it tastes like. The sea lion ribs taste just like bison meat, which was really bizarre. I thought it'd be sort of fishy and fatty and that kind of thing, but it tastes like smoked sea, or it tastes like bison. It was delicious. If you have the opportunity to ride through this Nass Valley, it's beautiful.
How do you spell Nass?
Nass. Yeah, it's great. It's totally, the drive up there, hot springs. It's such a stunning part of the country. It's great. Next up on the list, I wanted to go into the Northwest Territories, and I was looking for an unusual experience there too. And so a friend had put me in touch with another friend. This guy's name is Donovan Bouchard. He lives up there. So Donovan had dropped me a pin to where the road turned off to find his camp. But what he didn't mention is there's 2 roads to get back there. So I'm up about an hour outside of Yellowknife, come off the pavement, got to the road. I'm like, oh great, this is where you go. There's no cell service there, obviously. So I pull in, there's one that goes this way, one that goes this way, and I was like, I'm not sure. This one looks like maybe it goes, like it's been used a bit more. So I headed there, I got lost on the way in. I was riding through Muskeg. I made it through the first bit of Muskeg all right, but once I hit this section here, I took a stick and walked along and poked in the ground to see how deep it was, and at one point the stick disappeared, and I'm like, I'm not making it through there. So I ended up launching my drone that I had with me, and I flew around until I found his camp, and then I buzzed his camp with my drone so he would know I was in the area, and eventually he's like, oh, the guy's here. And so he came out on an 8x8 Argo, which is those overlanding, sort of 8-wheeled, oversized golf cart things. Came back, found me, took me back to his teepee in the woods, and he wanted me to have an amazing Canadian cultural experience with food. So what we have here is caribou ribs. His brother-in-law had shot earlier that year. We have ptarmigan breasts right here that he cooked up. This is bannock. And if you haven't figured it out by now, this fuzzy little creature here is the muskrat. And that's his tail right there. So we're sitting in Donovan's teepee in the woods, just outside of Yellowknife. And I sat down, and just like the conversation with Lonnie, I'm like, I'm sorry, Donovan, what's for lunch today? And he's like, we're having barbecued muskrat over an open fire. It was actually not that bad. The creme de la creme of the day was this little piece right here, the muskrat tail. So if you've ever had like a pork rib before and the sort of charcoaly, gristly bit on the outside of the rib that's sort of the burnt fat bit, that's what the tail tastes like. I'm not selling it like it's anything great. The only reason they eat it is for the calories. He said that there's no fat on any of the rest of this meat, and so whatever they can get the calories from, they'll take it, and so that's what they had. So I took my little 250cc dirt bike as far as I could, got rescued by Donovan, had the caribou ribs, had the muskrat tail, hit the road. That was a very cool Canadian experience that you're not going to have anywhere else in the country. Yeah.
Does he live full time in his teepee?
No, he works a regular job, and so I honestly don't know if he lives in Yellowknife or not. He lives somewhere outside of there, and then he will take camps back in there if you contact the guys. Donovan Bouchard, but I can't remember the name of his company off the top of my head. But you go back in there, do like day trips in there and stuff, if you can get there. Otherwise, you have to get him to take you, but it's amazing. Next on the list, I wanted so badly to get myself inside of a Hutterite kitchen. So I made some calls, I called them up, I said I wanted in. They said, I don't know who you are, see you later. And so I got stuck in a rainstorm in the sort of central Manitoba in this little town. I was walking out in the morning after I'd spent the night in the only hotel in town, dropped my bags on the bike, and this guy comes walking across the parking lot. His name's Daryl, and Daryl looks at me, looks at my bike, and he's like, what are you doing in this town? And I was like, well, Daryl, I got stuck in a rainstorm last night. I couldn't drive any further, so this is where I ended up. And he's like, that's interesting. What are you doing? I'm riding across the country. I'm trying to get to know people. I'm interviewing them. I'm trying to write a cookbook about it. He's like, well, if I can help you with anything, let me know. And I'm like, Daryl, I've been trying so hard to get into a Hutterite kitchen. If I could just meet one person who could get me in, that would be amazing. Daryl happened to have 2 clients, as he works for the power company. His 2 biggest clients were the 2 biggest Hutterite colonies in Manitoba. The next day, I drive to Daryl's house. Daryl puts me up for 4 days. We go to 2 different Hutterite colonies. I got to spend the day making pies. I got to spend the day at the head table. I don't know if you're into that kind of thing, but I was so excited to finally be in the kitchen of a Hutterite colony and inside there. And Daryl was such a nice guy that he looked at me in my dirty biker clothes, and he looked me up and down. And he was like, you're not wearing that inside of there. Daryl took the shirt off his back, put it on me. He's like, okay, you're good to go inside. So some of the people you meet just traveling around are some of like the most hospitable people on the planet, and Canadians for sure are top of that list in my opinion. Next on the road, I feel like you probably have, but has anyone here traveled through Quebec before or is from there? Yeah, so if you have the opportunity and you want to go somewhere that maybe doesn't require your passport, maybe doesn't require a flight, but is still very culturally diverse. Quebec is for sure one of the most interesting places, in my opinion, in Canada. I'd never traveled through it much before. And I went looking for this thing called the tourtière 𝗓𝗓, which is up here. So this is the traditional tourtière that you would see in most places, the thick meat pie. But I had my dirt bike, I wanted to go where I wanted to go, and I wanted to track down one of the most unique foods they had there. And so I ended up tracking down this tourtière 𝗓𝗓 in 𝗓𝗓 in Quebec. So we traveled up north, met this lady, she showed me how to make it. So what they do is they hunt moose, and they hunt beaver and ducks, and there's like 7 different meats inside of this pie. Super cool. Travel around, and what I'd heard but didn't know that outside of Montreal and Quebec City, obviously like English isn't that popular, but what I didn't realize is it's non-existent. And so in Quebec, they don't need to speak English. It's not, they don't have to. The world exists in French, so that it's not really that important to them. And so I got there, I thought maybe I can sort of bluff my way through because they'll know enough English. No, they're like, we know as much English as you know French. So unless you want to figure it out, you're on your own here. So luckily I had some translators, got to travel through the country, but Quebec, in terms of like riding and scenery and people and culture and foods, it's amazing. There's a reason there's Montreal steak spice, the Montreal bagel, the tourtière, maple syrup, because Quebec has such a deep culinary history. It's such a beautiful place. If you get the chance to ride through there, I would highly recommend it. Next on the list, beautiful Prince Edward Island. The cool part about PEI is it's surrounded by all these red sand beaches. So if you have a little 250 bike like this little baby right here, you can ride out to the beach, meet some interesting people, do some interesting things. So this right here was a lobster boil we done at the beach. For someone from Alberta, eating lobster on the beach in PEI is like no other food experience ever. It is they just build up the driftwood. I met this guy right there, Charles. Charles took me out sea bass fishing one day, he took me out mackerel fishing. And I got put in touch with another guy who owns a oyster farming operation. So I've eaten oysters before, they're delicious, they're quite tasty, but to meet the guy who has the oyster boat, who takes you out in the afternoon, shows you how they're growing, shows you where they're from, and then brings you back to the deck later with the crew and pulls out from under the boat this big bag of beautiful oysters that have been hand grown by the farmer and shucks them on the edge of the boat, and you're sucking them out of the shell, is a super cool Canadian culinary experience. And honestly, I think having the dirt bike made a huge difference for sure, because when people see you, it's kind of like you're part of the tribe. Like you have a bike, I have a bike, you like to cook, I like to cook. And so I got a lot of doors open for me, mostly because of the bike, and I was looking for food. So if you get the chance to go to PEI, ride your bike around, it is a beautiful little part of the world, and the people are basically like salt of the earth Canadians. Anyone from PEI here? You're from PEI?
No, not from.
Oh, you've been there? All right, yeah. And the people? Yeah, amazing. Such a great part of the planet. Next up, anyone been to Newfoundland before?
I'm a newbie.
You're a Newfie? Oh my God. Anyone visited there? And how was that experience? Amazing. For me, it's not to compare to Quebec, but I feel like the culture is so different than the rest of Canada that it's sort of that sort of timeline where it's English, but it's a little different English. We were at a kitchen party the first night I was there, and I was like, oh great, we're gonna meet all kinds of people, make lots of friends, this is really interesting. And I was sitting back, I'm not usually the wallflower, but I was just sitting back on the edge of the party, just sort of listening to what was going on, and someone came up and said, are you having a good time? And I'm like, yeah, I'm having a great time. Why? Like, why are you asking? They're like, well, you haven't said much. I'm like, honestly, I have no idea what's going on. You're talking and you're telling me things, and I'm trying to take it in, but I have no idea I don't know what you're saying or what these words are. And so luckily I had a translator from that too, someone who lived in Alberta, who also lived in Newfoundland, and they were happy to explain to me what was being said and what the different words meant. So it's great. If you get the chance to ride around Newfoundland, it's beautiful. So what this is here too, if you can see, these are all like side-by-sides and bikes and that kind of thing. So through Newfoundland is a railroad track that goes from one side of the province to the other. You can actually ride the railroad tracks through there, and there's camping spots along the way, and you can sort of tour it around. So I showed up on a long weekend, and there was, I don't even know, 300 ATVs and motorbikes boarding the ferry. A lot of people. And they're all gonna go right across the railroad tracks and camp and cook and hang out. So it's a great place to explore. And obviously the people are very, very, very friendly. Ended up on a cod fishing boat. That's Angie right there. She caught a bigger cod than me, so we had to use her picture instead of mine. A little bit of crab fishing, and then if no one's heard of the place called 𝗔𝗶𝘅 before, it has a funny name, so it gets lots of pictures. There's the 𝗔𝗶𝘅 Brewery, which is worth stopping by. Jimmy Kimmel put a huge sign in town that says "Welcome to 𝗔𝗶𝘅" or something along those lines. It's great. It's such an amazing, amazing part of the world. And so on this trip, my plan was to make it from coast to coast and home again from snowmelt to snowfall, which sounds like a lot of time. I had 7 months, took me about 6.5, but to actually beat the snowmelt through British Columbia and get home in Alberta before it snows again, didn't happen. You saw on picture number 1, I had to cross through a few blizzards on the first part of it. And I would save the Yukon until the very end because I knew it was the closest point to where I lived. It'd be easier to get to than Newfoundland. And if I didn't make it that year, I could go back the next year. So I went right from Newfoundland straight to the Yukon, which on most maps doesn't make a lot of sense, but that was the option I had, so that's the option I took. Anyone driven through the Yukon before? Yeah, amazing. It's stunning, it's amazing. The least populated part of Canada, beautiful scenery. So this shot isn't the best to see in this lighting, but this is actually the Laird Hot Springs in northern BC. And if you've been there, you know. If you haven't been there, it's just on the edge of a road, and you can I don't know if you can't camp there, but you can stay in a little hotel across the road. And it's this beautiful flowing hot river, and at nighttime the northern lights are in full bloom up above. And you just sit there and soak in like a natural sauna and hot tub. It is unbelievable. And then I got pretty lucky. I got there in fall. I was there in October, I think is when I showed up there. They told me usually by then it snows, so I was pretty happy that it hadn't snowed yet. And I hung out there. I met some more First Nations people, which was super cool. They brought me in, showed me how they smoke trout up there, some of the wild game they catch, that sort of thing. And then if you're lucky, you can get really close to the wildlife too. I didn't plan this. I was actually turned this way, taking a picture of some buffalo up the road. And I came back around and I looked and I'm like, oh, there's a very large bison right behind me. And so I took the camera, watched him walk by me, and got a little shot of him. So it's cool. It's a really, really interesting part of the planet. So for that trip across Canada, it took me 6 months and 2 weeks, 198 days. The total expenditure for everything breaks down like that, about $6,600 in total, which worked out to be about $33 a day. So obviously I tented a lot. I got super lucky meeting lots of friendly Canadians who were like, hey, stay at my house, camp in my backyard, stay at my sister's, stay on the couch. We'll kick our kids out of the one room, you can have their room. It worked out really great. I had to buy new tires, so I was into the parts part of things and a few other little broken things. Fuel. And so if you're ever thinking Canada's a really expensive place to travel, it's gonna cost me a lot of money, I don't know if I can go, you can do it for super cheap. I'm sure this room knows more than anyone what it's like to sort of adventure off-road, but it's doable. You can make it happen. And I'd like to talk about budgets a little bit at the end too, because some people I think are a little concerned about traveling the world because airfare and bike parts and hotels and all that kind of stuff. So for example, that's the Canada trip there that I was talking about, $33 a day, give or take 6 months. I rode the Pan Am for 2.5 years. When I left, I thought it was gonna cost me a considerable amount of cash, but when I did the math before I went, I only had about $12 a day budget to work with. So that's what I left with, and that's what I did it for. 2.5 years, $12 a day, Canadian, not American, Canadian, per day. I did that. A lot of camping, a lot of meeting people, a lot of living like the locals, a lot of eating local food, but I did mention it for about $12 a day. So tomorrow, night at 6:50, we're doing a talk about that, talk about the budgeting, we'll talk about the trip, kind of how you can do it for on the cheap if that's your thing. We also did New Zealand earlier this year. We went there in January, February. I got pretty lucky there. Lucky? I don't know, I guess if I got lucky, these are all lucky, but I met this guy in Bolivia on a back road one day, and he had Canadian plates on his bike, and I had Canadian plates on my bike, and we were both very out of place in that little spot. And he was driving the Pan Am. He happened to be from around Edmonton, similar area where I'm from, and we kept in touch. He was in New Zealand last year, and he bought a bike. And I said, oh, we're going to New Zealand. He's like, do you want to buy my bike? So we bought his bike, and we were able to sell at the end for the exact same price we bought it for. So instead of costing us like a rental or anything like that, we actually bought it and sold it for $0 in the end. So that's a really good way to save some cash if you can buy and sell. And New Zealand is one of the easiest places as a foreigner to buy and sell a vehicle. Actually, I used to live in New Zealand at one time, lived in Australia for a while too. And as a foreigner from a different country, you basically just need an address, which can be the hostel or hotel or a friend or anything. It's super simple. Go to the post office, $15 to register it. They don't require insurance there, which I haven't quite understood yet, but there's no insurance if you don't want it. So we didn't get it because it's cheaper.
You could in your gasoline.
Okay, well there you go, that's why. That's why gas is $97 a liter there. That makes sense now. And then if you're not into motorcycling specifically, you can also, lots of people obviously drive around the world. Maybe some people here are overlanders with SUVs and big trucks and that kind of thing. So we went to Africa actually for a honeymoon, and we rented this 𝗞𝗊𝘁, they call it, but like a truck with a tent on the top of it. And we went just after COVID, but we were able to negotiate a deal on this because we rented it for 6 months. And all in for the whole trip for 6 months, excluding airfare, worked out to be about $80 a day. And so if you're into overlanding vehicle-wise, you don't want to do the bike, obviously there's different ways to do it, and that was only 80 bucks a day for food, everything. Africa obviously is also a fairly cheap place to travel, but it's pretty good. And I would say, there's a little note at the end I always forget to talk about, so I was going to pull it up here. Oh, but I'd say if you don't know where to start or where to go, or if anyone in this room is like hasn't done a big trip but wants to, is that anybody in here? A couple people? Yeah. So if you don't know where to go, where to start, don't want to go by yourself, there's actually a few people here who you probably saw Rene Cormier set up in there, Renadian. He does trips all over the world. I don't work for him. I interviewed him one time, but I don't know him that well. I'm not selling his trips, but he has lots around the world. There's a guy I met in Bolivia, Chris of Bolivia Motorcycle Tours. If you ever want to travel to Bolivia, it's a super cheap part of the world and amazing. They have the Salar there, biggest salt flats in the world. It's a beautiful place. You can contract Chris at Bolivia Motorcycle Tours, super cool. I also used to work for a company in Vietnam called 𝗔𝗯់. They're the largest rental company of motorbikes in Vietnam. Vietnam's obviously a very cheap part of the planet, super cool off-roading there, beautiful place to travel. You could show up there and they could tour you around. I personally haven't done a tour hosted by anyone else in my life. It's just not my jam personally, although I feel like they'll be able to take you places that you wouldn't be able to get to on your own. And for example, in New Zealand, I looked up what it would cost to do a tour, and the first one I saw was a 3-week trip, and it was $26,000. And I was like, excuse me? I'm like, how much does it cost? I'm like, you get the bike, then you have to give the bike back at the end? Like, that's not included in the price? So I'm sure there's cheaper ones, but that was the first one I saw, and I'm like, there must be a better way. And so we ended up obviously buying the bike and doing it that way. But if you want to do it, you can do it anywhere in the world. It's always affordable one way or another. And if you're thinking about doing it or thinking about going somewhere, I would just highly recommend probably pulling the trigger. And as you saw before, there's lots of people in this room who have done different trips in different parts of the world and can answer your questions for you. So that was my little 250cc trip across Canada. And so I'm going to invite my wife up here for a couple minutes because she loves to get on stage in front of everyone. Actually, she doesn't, but I'll be right beside her, so it'll be okay. And if anyone has any questions about the 250 trip across Canada or where to go or anything else like that, you're welcome to ask. Or if you want to ask any questions of my wife, who's been on the back seat for trips through most of South America, Central America, New Zealand, all those kind of things. She was there also. So that's a wrap. Does anyone have any questions about anything whatsoever? You, lovely lady in the back of the room.
Okay, so New Zealand, you highlighted the $0 for the bike, but what did it cost you per day for the food and the accommodation, like the actual trip?
Yeah, so New Zealand's obviously a very expensive place to travel, in my opinion. It's beautiful. I used to live there. I've been there more times than anywhere else I've been in the world, which is really bizarre. I'm not sure why, but I've been there 4 times now, and it is not a cheap place to travel. So for us, the trade-off was on that trip is that we had camped a lot, and I love camping, and she doesn't mind camping. But the trade-off was either we rent a camper van and sleep in the camper van, or we Airbnb it or hotel it the whole time and don't tent at all. And so for us, it costs about $150 a day is what it worked out to be in the end, not including the flights. And so that was our budget. We came in the shoulder season, so we managed to get rooms between about like 80 to 110, depending on where we were, and it was a little bit lower travel. So yeah, it's definitely higher end for sure in terms of traveling. I would say it's more on par with maybe traveling Canada if you aren't tenting anywhere. But yeah, about 150, somewhere in there.
When you traveled across Canada, do you remember how many kilometers a day you were averaging?
More than I would want to normally. Yeah, I do. I actually wrote it all down, and I have this cute little spreadsheet that I don't have on hand with me right now, because it's, is it like 8,000 K coast to coast, something like that? And so, yes, like some days would be like 300, 400, 500 K. Personally, I like to travel about a max of about 3 or 4 hours a day is what I prefer to do personally.
What was it, 7 months?
Yeah, it's 6.5 months is what I did it in, yeah.
Were you taking days off?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. So if we got somewhere and I had to like do like a sort of a food trip of some kind, we'd try and spend a few days there. But it was more road time than I've personally done on a lot of trips, because on the move a lot. I had to meet people and work with their schedule, and I was filming people, interviewing them. I'm trying to write a book about it. It's about 65% done already. And so, yeah, and then the way back, I drove from Newfoundland back to Alberta in like 4 days, which is, I don't recommend to anyone, especially on a 250cc dirt bike. It's not the most enjoyable part of the trip, but the upside is once you're into Ontario or Quebec or the UK, Yukon, you can veer off road and that kind of thing. So, I don't know, maybe 400 or 500K a day, something like that. Yeah. Yes, sir?
Two kind of really different questions.
Yeah.
How much time did you spend in Newfoundland, or how much time would you say for Newfoundland to have a really good look around? And the second question was, you mentioned Vietnam and connection. Obviously, you spent some time there. I don't know if they were going to talk about that in another presentation or not there. I'm just wondering, like, if somebody was going to spend like 6 months in Southeast Asia there, I mean, I've heard of guys that are buying bikes there. Is that an option, or would you just, do you think it's a better option just to rent one, or you got any thoughts on
Yep.
that?
Sure, I'll do the Newfoundland really quick, and then you can probably chime in a little bit too. But for me, I originally was going to drive. You can come into the one port at the one end of the province or the one on this side of the province, and I was originally going to drive into this end and then drive across. But it's about 800K or something like that, I think. And I only had about 12 days there in total, and I had to do 2 different food experiences while I was there and drive around. So I skipped that part of it. So I don't know the province extensively, but I think you could easily spend 3 weeks there, no problem, and definitely not see everything, for sure. Like Newfoundland is a very large province, and there's a lot to see there, and it's very different from side to side. And once you meet one Newfie, you're probably going to meet the whole family. And so, yeah, you do lots of time. And you were there for maybe a week or so?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I was there for 2.5 weeks.
Oh, there you go. So, a while.
And the people in Newfoundland were amazing. I'm a big coffee person, so on any of our trips, that's what I make my husband do, is find little cute coffee places that we stop at in the morning before we hit the road. And we were at one in St. John's, and some gentlemen just down the way, they were on their bikes. So one of them came over to ask about our bike, and he invited us over for the night. He said, my wife is out of town at her sister's. Do you guys have anywhere to stay tonight? Do you want to come over for dinner and stay over? And I'm like, do we? I don't know. And I just said to him, I said, this would never happen in Alberta. So sure enough, we went over to his house. We had a blast. They were making beer. We had dinner. We had a sleepover, and they talked bikes, and yeah, it was amazing. But I think, 3 weeks, if not longer, in Newfoundland. It's incredible. The people, the geography, the landscape, food, all of it was amazing.
Yeah, great place. Super great. And then I'll try to do the bike Asia part really quick. So I actually used to live in Thailand for a while too. Tried to open a business there at one point. I'll tell the story a bit on Saturday's presentation. And traveled around Asia, pretty good amount. And then the guy I used to work for in Vietnam used to write all the articles for traveling, like the motorbike trips through Vietnam. And so they will sell you a bike there too. I don't know if they'll buy it back from you at the end. I don't know if they have that deal or not, or they'll rent you one. But it's pretty reasonable. But you can also buy a bike for pretty cheap there too, like the Hondas or the CFR 300, CRF 300 is made in Thailand. So it's obviously one of the cheaper places to get it from. And did you say 6 months? Is that what you said?
Well, I wasn't sure. I mean, I want to do an extended one, certainly like 3 to 4 months, I was thinking.
Yeah.
And that would include, like, obviously, a bunch of different countries in
Yeah.
Asia.
So in my opinion, I would pick a month a country if you want to see the minimum. I did at least a month minimum in any Asian place while I was there, Asian country while I was there. And I would say that's for sure, like, that's almost maybe not enough time, but if you have 6 months at least, I would do a month for sure, because you could spend you could just spend a month in the southern part of Vietnam, no problem, and another month in the northern part. They're very different climates. North is cold, they have snow. South is obviously super hot. Great place. Thailand, it's obviously a vast country, very easy to travel around, very tourist friendly. You could just scooter it if you want to. Vietnam would be maybe a little more dirt bike oriented, that kind of thing. And you would have a hard time finding a bike bigger than a 300. Obviously they exist and you can get them, and people have Harleys over there and everything, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. You would want the 125 or the 250 or whatever you're comfortable with. So I would say, yeah, you could pick, there's motorbike tours that go through Cambodia now too. obviously through Vietnam. You can do, if you want to go through China, that's a different story. You need to book it and have a guide. It's a lot more expensive, but it can be done. Laos, I don't know the answer to. I haven't motorbiked through there at all, or rented a bike or a scooter or anything there, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I'd pick a minimum monthly place, and obviously once you're there, it's a lot easier and it's super cheap. It's like insanely inexpensive. So you could live like a rock star on a very low budget and bike around, but yeah.
I have a little experience there, but just, you know, how I organize a bike, and, you know, maybe it's a good tip there, consider like a month in each country, right?
Yeah, I'd say a month.
Maybe you wouldn't be riding the whole time.
Yeah,
You
no.
were there, right? So maybe it'd make more sense just to rent a bike when you want to go for a week or something.
Yeah, you can do a tour there for super cheap too. Like it's there. Yeah,
So,
it's worth it for sure. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I've been across Canada about 3 times now.
Okay, yeah, cool.
I'm interested in your book
Yeah.
because what I'd be interested in is finding like some more specific information and perhaps less exotic.
Yeah.
Like you go to Newfoundland and they do cloudberry pie or something.
Yeah.
And sort of where's the best area to get that? Or if you're traveling through an area, what's that area you're open for?
Yeah.
Is that the book, the intention of your book to do that?
Yeah, mine's mostly about it's not quite done yet. So this book I'm selling here is it's about the South America trip. The one that's coming up, it should be ready before the year is over with. Same thing on my website and stuff. It's gonna be called Cooked in Canada. It'll be mostly like a story about the people who live in the area I visited and their culture, and then the food that they make in that area, with the sort of connected together by the motorcycle travels in between.
With the actual recipe.
Yeah, it's less about the motorbikes. This one's all about the motorbiking and the trip and sort of the mental head game that gets played on the way, and that one's more going to be about the culture and the cooking and that kind of thing, and not
But it
so.
has the actual recipes.
Yeah, I love recipes about the stuff in there.
Recipes for specific foods in it, but the recipes are kind of secondary to the story and the people that.
So maybe more commercial stuff like, finding the best restaurant for this.
Yeah.
Such and such.
Yeah, this won't be commercial at all. This would be impossible to find unless you met someone who it's very, yeah, you will never be able to Google these people.
That was his goal. He's like, don't give me any restaurants, no places like that.
Yeah.
He wants to find, very local, artisanal kind of people that are doing any kind of cuisine.
Well, I'm glad you emphasized Nass Valley because it's up there about a month ago.
Yeah,
And it's spectacular.
it's amazing.
I've never been there. That whole area north of Terrace.
Yeah.
Is beautiful.
That's great. So that's a stunning part of the planet. It's unbelievable. That's good. So I have like 2 minutes before they can kick me off. So that's probably 2 or 3 more questions. Yes, sir.
You talked about the ease of ownership of a motorcycle in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Does the same thing apply in Australia?
Yeah, so I used to live in Australia too for a while. I owned a car there, and I don't remember the process exactly, but we weren't, like, I wasn't a citizen, and we bought a car and insured it. And so I'm fairly confident that the process is the same. You have to have an address there, and we had a foreign license, and so that was obviously pretty easy. And so I don't remember exactly because that was a while ago, but I think it's all, like, pretty similar in terms of just like buying and selling. We did it, so it's possible for sure. Yeah. At the very back, sir. Yes.
Yeah, as an alternative to buying and selling, I know there's an agency, I can't remember the name of it, that rents bikes from individuals. Like you could list your bike.
Oh, really? Oh.
Rent it in North America.
Yeah.
I don't know whether such a thing is available like in Europe or Australia, or are you familiar with it at all?
Yeah, it might be too. I haven't looked into that part of it. I personally would never rent my bike out because I know how easy it is to drop them. But
Insurance and everything.
Yeah.
It sounds like a pretty decent organization, but it may only be North America.
yeah, for sure.
Do you have to lend your bike in order to borrow one?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if you're going to do this, you got to be on the hook too. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yes, that's a wrap. So if you want to learn anything else, I don't know if it's today or tomorrow. I'm on a panel where we're actually talking about traveling Australia and New Zealand. I think that's later today, but honestly, I forget the schedule. And then tonight at 6:50, I'm giving the same speech again about this talk. And then tomorrow at 6:50 will be the South America one, that kind of thing. If you're interested in buying a book, I'm selling the ones from the South America trip, $20 a pop. If you want to buy one, it's great. If you don't, it's totally fine too. We just brought them here for the event. I brought only a few because we're on a bike, so I got a few of those. And yeah, I think that's kind of a wrap. So if anyone has any little side questions or anything like that, you're welcome to ask me after here. But that is my time for today. So thank you very much for taking your time in the sunshine and showing up.